Well, today I want to talk to you about an exchange that was made almost 2,000 years ago. And the reason for this exchange is because humanity has a problem. We have a problem, you and I. It's our sinful nature. I don't know if you know this, but we have a sinful nature. The Bible tells us in Romans chapter 3, verse 23, it says, "For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God." We all have sinned. We all have this sinful nature that we naturally gravitate towards. If you don't think about it, if you don't consciously and be intentional about living a moral and godly life, like you will just naturally sin. And the thing is none of us are without sin. Even if you think, I'm a good person, I have good morals, I'm good, well, you still sin. Because in 1 John chapter 1, verse 8 tells us, if we claim to be without sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. You're just deceiving yourself if you say, there's no sin in me. Every single one of us sins. Every single one of us has sins on the inside. And there is a consequence for sin. There's consequences for sin. And what we need to understand is the consequence, the exchange for sin is death. The exchange for sin is death. Romans chapter 6, verse 23 says, "For the wages of sin is death." What the enemy, though, has deceived people into believing is that the exchange for your sin is a party and a good time. Hey, if you sin, if you party, you be you, then you're going to have a good life. You're going to have a great time. You know what? Hey, it's be you. That's what the enemy wants to tell you. It's okay. It's your life. Do what you want. Like you only live once. It's all you. The enemy has deceived the majority of the world into believing that sin is even necessary for happiness, fun, and even success. The enemy has tricked people into believing that they're making a good exchange, but believing that a life of sin equals a good life, and it's a lie. Have you ever had to exchange money into a different currency? So most of you know, I was born and raised in Canada. My mom is a missionary actually in the Dominican, and my sister still lives in Toronto, Ontario. And a few months ago, my mom given me some money and gave me a check, and it was a good amount of money. And so I decided I need to investigate because I want to get the best exchange rate possible. So I go to the bank, and I said, okay, what's your exchange rate? I have this Canadian check. It's in Canadian dollars. I'm going to deposit it into my account. What is the exchange rate? And they said, well, it's 0.7. I'm like, okay, which means that for every dollar Canadian, you're going to get 70 cents American. And I'm like, okay. I said, no, you're sure? Like there's no hidden fees. There's no oh, yeah, I forgot. I wanted the bottom line. What is the real exchange rate? She's like, no, there's no fees. There's nothing. She's like, but let me call another branch and someone who specializes in this, and I'll make sure. So she calls the other branch. She's like, yeah, 0.7. I'm like, all right, sounds good. And I go ahead and I deposit the money into my account. It takes about, I don't know, at least a week, 10 days because of, the exchange and different international banking. And then I see it clear, and I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, that's not 0.7. And it was enough money that I was irritated. I'm like, yeah, we have a problem. So I go to the bank, and I'm like, I need to talk to the manager. And I said, I was in here a couple weeks ago, or yesterday, whatever, and one of your employees told me I was going to get a 0.7 interest rate. I got 0.65, and where's the rest of my money? She told me that it was 0.7. And so he's like, and he could tell I was kind of irritated, because they told me, I went ahead of time so I would know. And so he gets on the phone, he's calling, he's trying to figure it out, and he comes back to me, he's like, yeah, he said she was wrong. I'm like, you think? I can see the money in my bank. I know she was wrong. I want to know why. And so anyways, once it was done, he kind of explained it to me better, and there really wasn't much I could do. It was exchange. It was done. I'm like, essentially, I just lost the money. But the thing is, that's what the enemy does to us. He tells us, sells us, oh, this is what sin is going to do for your life. This is what living an ungodly, unmoral life, this is what it's going to look like. It dresses it up, makes it look all nice and pretty with lights, and oh, this is what it is. But then when you get in it, it's like, oh, that's not what it is. actually leaves me alone and empty and feeling like, man, what am I doing with my life? Tells you one thing, but it's actually something completely different. So you may be thinking to yourself, well, if the exchange for sin is death, and everyone sins, well, then what? Where do we go from here?